universe, and then they just don't actually.
You can get rid of. I mean, that Spider-Man doesn't have to show up, but that could be your way to keep this one going without it screwing with people and watching the other Spider-Man.
I'm pretty sure that Andrew Garfield has nothing going on after Hacksaw Ridge, so he's available if that's the case. But yeah, I mean that's very interesting to me. How they're going to build this side universe. I mean, you essentially have somebody swinging around New York City that is extremely similar to Spider-Man, and you have to get away with playing it by not mentioning Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's awful. It's playing it awful close to the chest, if you ask
You're
me.
like that other guy that flies around sometimes.
Yeah,
she goes hard to him.
It's going to take a really good writer to pull that off.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's face it, I mean, sorry Sony, but you haven't really had the best track record thus far.
Yeah,
so.
I'm very trepid about this.
Well, I think.
I mean, I'll still go and see it regardless, because let's face it, it's a superhero movie. I'm going to see it regardless. But yeah, Sony.
They are shooting for an R rating on that, right?
I'm not sure.
I mean, there's really no other way that you can do a Venom movie.
If Carnage is going to show up, it has to be R rated.
Well, I think that I think Tom Hardy is obviously the only one they've announced casting on, so he's going to be first on the docket. Besides Black Hat and Silver Sable, which they've also announced they're going to make movies for. I think Marvel is going to be keeping an eye on this, because if Sony pulls it off and like this Venom really resonates, they might talk about bringing him into the larger universe.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think they would show up in Homecoming 2, if you will, but let him stand on his own for a little while, and then it's okay. Let's tie him in.
Yeah.
This is too good to pass up, and then they could always use him and throw him around in a Spider-Man team up. That'd be a heck of a movie.
Yeah.
Especially if they introduce Carnage as well. I know that historically Venom and Carnage have always butted heads, but. Okay.
Do we want to move into spoilers then?
All right.
Okay.
Let's
So
move into spoilers.
big spoiler warning. Give you a couple seconds. I have some box office numbers.
I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah. There you go. Just to Spider-Man: Homecoming. The budget was $175 million, which is kind of par for the course with superhero movies. It did really well opening weekend with a U.S. open of $117 million and a worldwide of $257. So the general rule is that with your budget, you always double it for advertising. So you're talking $350 million. They're $100 million off from that. And just kind of give everybody some perspective, the first Spider-Man movie, the Sam Raimi, opened at $114.
No, that's Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
First, yeah. Right. Grossed $403, so we're already over halfway there. And that was the highest grossing of any of the older Spider-Man movies. And the only one I want to give you is Amazing Spider-Man 1. That opened at $62 million and grossed $262 million. That's worldwide totals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was just domestic. So yeah, I mean, even for the first Spider-Man movie, which was, I think the X-Men movie had come out before Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man was 2002. X-Men was 2000.
Right. So it wasn't like the first of its kind or anything.
I mean,
none of
this is adjusted for inflation either, but it's still.
But I mean, comparatively to a $257 million open to $119 million, yeah, this is.
And especially considering too that this is still technically the opening weekend, so they got plenty of time to make up.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's already it did better than Wonder Woman this year. It did not do. I'm pretty sure it did not do as well as Guardians 2, but that was a sequel building off of a very successful movie. It'd be interesting to see what the drop off is from this weekend to next. I don't think it'll be that great. I mean, the theater we went to see it in was absolutely packed,
sold out.
That's true.
We go to a lot of openings, and not a lot of these movies are sold out like that. So it's definitely a big draw right now.
Well, I think clearly, they chose the perfect companion for Spider-Man to bring him into the universe. I think that Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. has a lot of star power. And we're coming up on the end of his contract. We'll get into that in the next main topic once we wrap up Spider-Man. But he was the perfect character to bring Spider-Man into the larger fold. And I almost promise you that helped numbers.
Oh, yeah.
This obviously is a Spider-Man movie, but, bringing Iron Man into anything, $50 million easy.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, it was really nice, too, to see, because I wasn't expecting that many homages to the bigger MCU. You know what I mean? It was nice to see.
Much more self-contained.
Like, I was only honestly expecting Tony Stark. I wasn't expecting to see Happy or
to mention
Gwyneth Paltrow or anything like that, whatever her name is. Oh, Pepper Potts. But, yeah, man. What was your guys' favorite scene in the movie? How about that?
We're neck deep in spoilers now, right?
Yeah.
So towards the end of the movie, he discovers that Vulture is his crush's. What's her name? Liz.
Liz Allen.
It's her father. And he goes to homecoming with her, and in the car ride, he discovers that Peter is Spider-Man, and they have this great conversation. It's kind of the dad-boyfriend conversation, but at the same time, it's a true threat of, I am going to kill you if you mess this up for me. And I like the tension it built. It was a very quiet scene. There was no action at all, but I thought both actors did a really great job. Once again, Michael Keaton, he's so intense. He dives into that character, and Tom Holland too. He pulled it off. He looked terrified.
Oh yeah,
he looked like he was just going to crap his pants. And I mean, like I said, not the most action. It was no action at all, but I really liked the intensity of that scene.
And very human.
Yeah. And by the way, may I say, if I was Peter Parker in that situation, I would have been like, all right, just shut up already, to the Liz Allen, because you're blowing my cover here.
Yeah, she definitely.
I also like that he was able to put it together. I mean, how many superhero movies, like even with like the Superman movies? He just took his glasses off, like. All of these common ideas, like he drew a conclusion, like this kid is Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that anybody in that same situation would have figured it out as well. So it takes that comic booky feel, it makes it human.
Yeah,
and the fact that he was, or her dad was able to figure that out just from what she said, and the fact that she said and she still doesn't know.
That's true. Yeah, I was surprised that she didn't put it together as well. But I think he had the tip off, like hearing his voice.
Well, he Spider-Man. He knew that when Spider-Man disappeared from the party, he grabbed him up. Mm-hmm. He knew that when Peter wasn't in Washington with them, he was messing with the truck. Yep. He knew he had the other piece of the puzzle, so it just kind of clicked for him.
Right.
Absolutely. But that was a hell of a scene. I think my favorite scene is shortly after he pulls Michael Keaton out of the plane wreck. Just watching the aftermath. Happy shows up. Michael Keaton is kind of webbed to all the gear with a note, basically, here you go. And Tom Holland is just looking out over the wreckage with his mask off, just kind of, bruised and battered, and like, holy crap, I just did that. And, that felt like Spider-Man. They nailed it. That, to me, that was the moment that I was like, that right there, that's effing Spider-Man.
Yeah, and especially, too, because one point that I'd like to make is that in all of the other Spider-Man movies, besides for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man number 3, when Sandman got away, all the other supervillains ended up dying. And that's not Spider-Man.
They almost always die.
But that's not Spider-Man. Spider-Man doesn't kill anybody. They always end up in jail or in prison or whatever kind of, S.H.I.E.L.D. takes them away. But either way, they don't die. And this one, he didn't die. He just got webbed up and ended up going to prison, which is Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man doesn't kill.
Historically, in all of the comic books, he does everything he can to not take a life. And you could write it off in the earlier movies as happy accidents, if you will. They just kind of disappear from the timeline. But, this also leaves it open, because I would love for the Vulture to come back into the picture.
In a Sinister Six kind of movie.
Definitely. He was just a damn good villain. They nailed it. I know there was a lot of... If you look at the comic book Vulture... comparatively, how
it was
like going to pull off like this geriatric 60-year-old flying around in this bird suit.
This green spandex bird suit.
That flight suit was very functional,
realistic,
awesome to look at. It made some people at the table want to purchase a leather jacket.
That's true.
And by the way,
that was mastery. It was very plausible and grounded and ominous.
And by the way, while we're on the subject of, the costume designs, how awesome was that Tony Stark designed Spider-Man suit? All the gadgets and stuff. And
are you talking about the suit that he wears?
Yeah, Karen, the artificial intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. There was definitely some surprises.
Like instant kill?
She
kept wanting to go to instant kill.
Like the taser web was
that
was cool.
That was
really cool. It's
rapid fire, all that.
It's giving Spider-Man...
it brings him up to the level where he can fight bigger villains.
Yes.
Because, let's be honest, most of the villains he fights in his comic books are guys in suits with,
technology.
Augmented power by technology. But we have to have this Spider-Man be able to fight the Lokis and, stuff like that. So, this suit gives him the ability to do that. But it was nice that they took it away from him, so he did not have it in the biggest moments of this movie.
Yeah. Yes. Although, honestly, I will say, I kind of wish instead of the, sweatsuit Spider-Man, which obviously they did in the YouTube video from Civil War, but I would have kind of liked to see Bagman. Spider-Man just web swinging around with a paper bag on his head, man. I mean, that would have been awesome.
I don't know. I think he has just enough sense that, okay, I can turn his ski mask into something functional with some goggles. I'm just saying, if I were a superhero, I would do everything to not wear a paper bag on my head, unless my powers were paper bag related for some reason.
So, real quick, I didn't even notice this when we were watching the movie because it was so good. You don't really think about it. I know some people did catch this, but there was no mention of spider sense at all.
No, it was more implied than anything else.
So Kevin Feige, I think this is more damage control because I honestly think they just forgot about it. He came out the next day after the movie was out and said, "No, it's there. We just didn't want to make it a big point." But if it's there, how does Vulture sneak up on him 3 separate times in that movie?
That is true.
I think you're right. I think they kind of forgot to pen it in a little bit.
And you can't get too mad at him. I mean, there was a lot to juggle, and they got it all.
Well, he had said in that interview as well, is that they wanted to make it seem more organic. Like, it had been very cinematic up to this point in the Spider-Man movies, and that, they always made a big deal out of it. Tobey Maguire sees that car coming or whatever.
Yeah, and they
like a slow-mo. So it's a different thing to pull off. It's like Daredevil's Shadowverse, if you will. Like, everybody has their own interpretation of it. Versus the Ben Affleck disaster and the Charlie Cox obviously saving the entire role of how they painted it. Because I don't know if did you guys ever see the original Daredevil?
Yeah.
I'm sorry that happened to you. But,
dramatic.
Yeah, it was like very much like
I can't look at seesaws and playgrounds the same way.
I avoid them at all costs. Blind people that aren't actually blind fight people there. But and then in the Netflix show, he describes it as a world on fire. So it's open to interpretation because I'm sure that in the comic books it has a very solid "this is what it is."
Yeah.
So I'll give them that. It's noticeable enough that nobody picked up on it. But I think that in the next movie, maybe in the next Avengers movie, they're going to do like a subtle, he has it. Because if they did forget to do it, they're going to do, like you said, damage control. They'll do like a little wink to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't forget it this time, guys.
Yeah. Just do a little something. Like, even if you got to do, even if you got to do the like cartoony, like, asterisks around his head or something.
Itself.
Yeah.
Tom Holland just make asterisks appear?
Or, some kind of something.
Is there a potential, though, that Karen, the AI, is, air quotes, the Spidey sense?
No.
Well, that's what they had said is, does the suit negate the need for one? Like you said, I think...
It's not, let's be honest, the Spidey sense is cool, but what spider has a Spidey sense?
Tarantulas, I think.
Do they? I mean, I don't.
I'm not exactly an arachnologist.
I've got enough fucking sense to stay away from most spiders.
Well, if that's what you're considering spider sense.
There's one, you kill it.
So, I mean, I could see, because the MCU tries to stay grounded in a kind of science. Maybe they just say the AI is the spider sense. I mean, he's got the little drone, which was awesome, by the way.
I mean, it wasn't in the movie, but at this point, he's come on record and said that it's a part of it. I think to kind of backpedal is going to, like, not everybody's going to sit there and go to the forums and, you bastard. But,
you underestimate the power of the internet.
Yeah.
Maybe. But it's a dark and devious place. But I think that, like I said, I think we're going to get a little wink. Just so people will stop talking about it at the very end. Just like, here, eat it up, you bastards.
Yeah.
So, Easter eggs?
Hold on. Let's do it. Let's talk about it. The Iron Spider.
Oh, yeah.
This is the big one, guys.
So, basically at the end of the movie, or towards the end of the movie, Tony Stark brings him upstate to their new Avengers facility, and he offers Spider-Man the opportunity to join the Avengers, and shows him this Iron Spider suit.
Well, what people believe is probably the Iron Spider.
Oh, it's gotta be.
Well, yeah, but it
has shine to it.
Yeah, it's a different enough interpretation that there's still a question mark, but because it might not do everything that the original Iron Spider suit did.
Yeah, and it didn't have the metal arms on the
exactly.
backpack like the original did and all that. But even still, it looks badass.
Yeah, it's like a 95% chance it's the Iron Spider suit. But yeah, it absolutely does. It's.
Although, did anybody else kind of get this impression that it looked an awful lot like Spider-Man 2099 suit?
It did. Well, you're right. It was very similar.
Well, it's probably like an amalgam. They just kind of mishmash them both together, so it's not exactly one thing.
Yeah.
But our biggest speculation collectively has been that Spider-Man's putting it on before he steps into the ring in Avengers with Thanos.